we don't do anything seriously as a planet, really, to reduce emissions. We are in a world of hurt that, according to what scientists are telling us, we will be in a world of hurt that I think most of us have not yet imagined.
The first thing that we need to say is that climate change is a real phenomenon. One of the things that makes it difficult is that, like many environmental phenomena, it has a sort of invisible quality to it. So people are not quite able to understand the connections between certain kinds of human activities and the impact that they have on the environment. And for that reason, it's relatively easy for many people to dismiss climate change as a real phenomenon.
We know now how much carbon we could safely have in the atmosphere. Anything above 350 parts per million is not compatible with the planet on which civilization developed and to which life on Earth is adapted. So that's strong language for scientists to use.
The most conservative governments in the world, including U.S., have outlined 2 degrees as the limit for how much we can allow the globe to warm. So 595 gigatons will get us to 2 degrees. Right now, the fossil fuel industry has 2,795 gigatons of reserves that they plan to burn.
It's very clear that they're not going to voluntarily withdraw from taking that carbon out of the ground. And for us to stay at a safe level of carbon emissions into the atmosphere, 80% of what they have, we have to leave in the ground.
The impacts of climate change are not distributed equitably. There are certain groups that are already vulnerable, and as a consequence of their vulnerability, which is mostly associated with their limited resources or the location of where they're living or the kind of employment that they have, they will be more impacted by the impacts of climate change.
Inequality of income also corresponds to inequality of environmental impact. So if you live in Haiti, for example, or Bangladesh, chances are you don't use much fossil fuel, you don't buy many things that are produced by machines, you don't use many machines in your own life, you probably don't drive, you probably don't have air conditioning in your house, you probably don't have a microwave or a coffee pot or anything like that that uses fossil fuel. You may not even have electricity. You are not really contributing very much to the atmospheric accumulation of CO2 that is responsible for this problem. But you really are on the front lines in terms of dealing with the consequences.
There are also communities that are located in proximity to refineries, which not only have a whole set of problems associated with the burning of fossil fuels, but with the refining of fossil fuels and the chemicals and the processes that are associated with fossil fuel production, having to do, for example, with indoor air quality or outdoor air quality, which then has an impact on people's respiratory systems and on their general health and well-being.
The interests of organized money are drowning out the interests of the general public. The fossil fuel industry is really culpable, responsible for this problem because they have tried so hard to discredit scientists, to try to prevent legislative action, to prevent regulatory action, to prevent executive action. So it's not just that they're producing fossil fuel and that we're burning it. It is that they have done things to make sure that we keep burning fossil fuel, even after it's pretty well established that the fossil fuel habit we have is doing a lot of damage.
Whether you're an environmental studies major or a conscious citizen or, just a concerned human being, it's very overwhelming. These are the most powerful people in the world that we're talking about, and what is one person going to do?
If you zoom in on a specific institution, like say colleges and universities, we see that there's around $400 billion invested there. That's a lot of money to take out of the fossil fuel industry. It's one of the biggest ways that that we can have an impact and speak the language of these corporations, which is the language of money.
So divestment, it does sound a little complicated, but it's just the opposite of investing.
Divestment is basically taking the funds that you have invested in a company or industry out of that industry.
I am asking San Francisco State to divest its money from fossil fuel corporations. You think of San Francisco and you hear how it's a forefront for green initiatives, but how can it be if you're investing in fossil fuel companies?
I think divestment is a very important tool because it's doing more than just having rallies. It's mobilizing students, mobilizing cities. It's really getting people to get on their feet and actually take action.
I see myself as bringing order to the meetings when we have meetings on campus with all the students, bringing them all together, making sure everybody's happy there, making sure everybody's getting their point across. If people want to show up and just learn about divestment, then they can. They don't necessarily have to have a major role.
Campuses that are part of the divestment campaign are asking for two very specific things. We're talking to our board of trustees, and we're asking them to, one, freeze any new investments in the fossil fuel industry, and two, divest all investments and commingled funds from the fossil fuel industry within 5 years.
There's 200 companies that have the largest fossil fuel reserves, and so they're the ones that are on the list, and it's 98% of the problem. It's all the big ones, everyone whose name you've heard, from Exxon on down. Those are the people that we need to get divested from.
Where divestment was used to the biggest effect was against the apartheid regime that used to exist in South Africa. There was a big global campaign to pressure public institutions and other entities to withdraw funds from companies doing business in South Africa.
I come from a generation that was deeply impacted by the divestment movement in South Africa. I saw the power of the divestment movement to bring down apartheid. And I think that it has been well documented that without the divestment movement, apartheid would not have fallen when it did and how it did.
And while they were in the middle of it, they were never sure whether they were really making any progress. But at the end, apartheid came down, and Nelson Mandela chose to come to UC Berkeley to thank the students for the incredible job they did and how important it had been for that movement.
When we look back on that movement and we try to understand and document its impact on institutions of higher education that divested, they did not suffer very much.
The theoretical risk to return from excluding fossil fuels from your portfolio is very small. 0.0034%, less than a basis point is how the investors would say it.
The more money that we take out of these fossil fuel resources, the more money that we're investing in alternative energy sources.
When anyone talks about the future of energy, we're talking about renewable energy. We never say coal, the future of energy, oil, the future. No, that's old energy. We're trying to get rid of that.
Quite frankly, it's hypocritical to attend a university, address these problems in a classroom, and then leave and not question what the university is doing itself.
We absolutely are going to make a difference with divestment, and a huge part of that is creating a culture around not investing in things that are immoral and that we don't believe in.
So I don't know whether we're going to win, but I do know now, and I can tell you this from traveling
all over this planet, I know, at the very least, gonna fight, and fight hard. It's gonna be an exciting couple of years. And we're gonna win when we divest, and we're gonna win even in those places where divestment comes very hard. The fight is gonna be as important as the victory.
The divestment campaign resolution and being in support of the resolution, please signify your vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Abstentions? Motion carries.
This movement embodies everything, you know, human rights, civil rights, environmental justice, social justice. It's all encompassed because, you know, climate change affects everyone. I don't think that can be said enough. And so it's just a way for people to come together ultimately. You know, it can be very fun to take back what's ours in a sense. And we need all of the student input we can get. And as most social movements go to show, strength is found in numbers.
The Keystone Pipeline, the line in the sand. We can't let a pipeline cross this land. We gotta kill it, don't let them build it. Come on, you people, and take a stand. The Keystone Pipeline ain't getting built in this land. The shale oil deep in the ground, it's gotta stay right there where it's found. Can't let them build it, we gotta kill it. Come on, you people, take a stand, 'cause the Keystone Pipeline ain't getting built in this land. Let's get the message to one and all. Let's give our Congress a wake-up call. We'll march on the street, we'll march in the Capitol Mall, gonna march on that pipeline.